Have you ever felt like you're constantly on the edge, saying yes to everyone else's needs, but silently screaming no inside? Here's the hard truth. Every single yes you utter out of guilt or fear is a no to your own peace, dreams, and sometimes sanity. Think about it. How many times have you stretched yourself too thin, only to feel invisible, exhausted, and utterly unappreciated? This isn't just about being helpful or kind, it's about losing bits of yourself in the endless pursuit of pleasing everyone else. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to be this way. Today, we're diving deep into the art of setting boundaries, the power of a well-placed no, and how these can be the biggest acts of self-love you'll ever commit to. If you're tired of feeling like a doormat and ready to reclaim your life, stick around. This video might just be the wake-up call you didn't know you needed. And hey, while you're here learning how to master the art of saying no to others, how about saying yes to hitting that like button, subscribing and sharing this video? Trust me, watching till the end is the one commitment today that won't exhaust you. And no, fast-forwarding is not the kind of boundary we're setting here. Let's get real for a moment. You know, deep down, we all have this inner battle going on, a tug-of-war between what we feel we ought to do and what we genuinely want to do. It's like there's this voice inside us, whispering, nudging, sometimes even shouting for us to take a step back, to consider our own well-being for once. But then, there's the world, with its endless demands and expectations, pulling us in 1,000 different directions. The ancient Stoics had a word for this inner fortress we're trying to protect. They called it the inner citadel. It's that part of you that's truly yours, where your thoughts, emotions, and values reside, untouched by the chaos of the outside world. Think about Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in the ancient world, yet he constantly reminded himself of the importance of guarding his inner citadel against the demands and opinions of others. He knew that true power lies not in controlling others, but in controlling oneself. Imagine that, having all the power in the world, yet realizing the only thing truly worth governing is yourself. Now, I know what you're thinking. That's all well and good for a Roman emperor, but what about me? Here's the thing. The Stoics, from Marcus to Seneca to Epictetus, they weren't just philosophers sitting around contemplating life. They were practitioners of a way of living that's as relevant now as it was then. They taught the art of differentiation, knowing what's within our control and what's not. And guess what's firmly in your domain? Your responses, your boundaries, your ability to say no. Why is this so hard for us? Because we're wired to connect, to belong, to feel valued. And there's nothing wrong with that. The problem arises when our desire for connection leads us to compromise our inner citadel, our core. We start saying yes when every fiber of our being wants to say no. We do it because we're afraid of disappointing people, of being seen as selfish, of missing out on opportunities. But here's a Stoic truth bomb for you. Not every opportunity is worth pursuing, especially if it costs you your peace of mind. So, when you feel torn, remember this. Setting boundaries is not just about saying no to others, it's about saying yes to yourself. It's about honoring your values, your needs, your energy levels. It's about making a conscious choice to guard your inner citadel from being overrun by the desires and demands of others. This doesn't mean you become a hermit, cutting off all ties with the world. Far from it. It means you engage with the world on your terms, from a place of strength and self-respect. Remember, the Stoics weren't advocating for a life of isolation, but a life of purposeful engagement. They knew the importance of community, of friendships, of being a valuable member of society. But they also knew that to truly serve others, to be a force for good in the world, you first need to be in good standing with yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. So, Next time you find yourself automatically reaching for that yes, pause. Take a breath. Consult with the emperor in your mind, your inner Marcus Aurelius. What would he say? Probably something like, is this serving my highest good? Is this in line with my values? Will this compromise my inner citadel? If the answer is yes, then maybe, just maybe, it's time to exercise the most powerful word in your vocabulary, no. This approach, blending the timeless wisdom of Stoicism with the practical matter of setting boundaries, isn't just about self-preservation, it's about self-respect. It's about acknowledging that you, like everyone else, have limits, and that's not just okay, it's necessary for a fulfilling life. So let's take this journey together, learning from the Stoics how to guard our inner citadel, one no at a time. We're talking about setting boundaries, and if you're anything like me, the idea itself can sometimes feel a bit, well, academic. But here's where Stoicism, this ancient yet incredibly timely philosophy, really shines and brings some much-needed clarity to the table. The Stoics were all about understanding the nature of control. They broke down everything in life into two buckets, things we can control and things we can't. Your thoughts, your decisions, your actions, those are yours to command. Everything else, it's like trying to teach a cat to sing, frustrating and ultimately futile. Now, how does this relate to setting boundaries? Well, at its core, setting a boundary is an exercise in recognizing what's within your control. You can't control how others react to your no, but you can control that no itself. You're the master of your own ship, deciding where to dock, whom to let aboard, and whom to kindly or firmly ask to walk the plank. Let's talk about Epictetus, a Stoic heavyweight. He was a former slave who became one of the most respected philosophers of his time. Talk about a glow-up. Epictetus is famous for saying, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is boundary-setting gold. It's a reminder that while you can't control others' demands on your time and energy, you have total sovereignty over your response. But here's where it gets juicy. The Stoics weren't just about stiff upper lips and enduring hardship. They were big on the idea of oikeiosis, a fancy Greek word that basically means the natural affection and preference for what is one's own. This concept extends to the idea of self-preservation and care. In setting boundaries, you're practicing oikeiosis. You're recognizing what's important to you and taking steps to protect and nurture it. And then there's Marcus Aurelius, a Roman emperor and a Stoic philosopher who wrote extensively about the inner turmoil and external pressures he faced. He constantly reminded himself to focus on what was within his control and to maintain his integrity in the face of external demands. His writings and meditations serve as a personal guide to maintaining one's course in the stormiest of seas. When you're setting boundaries, you're essentially having a Marcus moment. You're affirming your values and choosing actions that align with those values, irrespective of external pressures. So, how can we apply this Stoic wisdom to our everyday lives? Start by taking a moment each day to reflect on your actions and decisions. Ask yourself, are these in line with my values? Am I maintaining my inner citadel, or have I let someone breach the walls? It's about becoming more mindful of where your energy goes and making sure it's directed towards what truly matters to you. Remember, setting boundaries isn't about shutting people out. It's about letting your true self flourish. It's about saying, this is who I am, these are my values, and I respect myself enough to protect them. And yes, it's okay to stumble along the way. Even the most seasoned Stoics had their moments of doubt. The key is to keep coming back to your core principles, to keep reflecting, and to keep choosing actions that reflect your true self. By approaching boundary setting with this Stoic mindset, we can navigate our lives with a clearer sense of purpose, ensuring that our actions and interactions are in harmony with our deepest values and principles. It's not just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to ourselves, to our peace, and to our integrity. All right, let's pivot to something truly empowering. You know, the Stoics had this incredibly powerful concept of Amor, fate, which translates to love of fate or love of one's fate. It's this radical acceptance of everything that happens to us, not just begrudgingly accepting it, but embracing it, loving it even. Now, before you think I've gone off the deep end, let's apply this to setting boundaries, because, believe it or not, it's deeply relevant. When we start setting boundaries, we're essentially deciding to love our fate. Why? Because each time we set a boundary, we're saying, this is my life, my time, my energy, and I choose how it's spent. It's about taking what life throws at us, be it demands on our time, energy vampires, or unwelcome situations, and responding in a way that aligns with our values and our well-being. But here's where it gets even more empowering. The Stoics, especially Epictetus, talked a lot about the dichotomy of control, about understanding what's in our power and what's not. Setting boundaries? That's in your power. How people react to those boundaries? Not so much. But here's the kicker. It's not about the reaction. It's about your action. It's about standing firm in your values, about respecting yourself enough to say, this is where I draw the line. Let's break this down into something actionable, something you can start applying today. First up, get clear on your values. What's non-negotiable for you? Is it your family time, your mental health, your creative pursuits? Knowing this is like having a compass that always points you back to what's truly important. Next, practice saying no. And I mean really practice. Start small if you need to. It doesn't have to be a flat-out no at first. It can be, let me get back to you, or I'll need to think about that. The key is to give yourself space to decide if this request aligns with your values and your compass. Now, here's a Stoic exercise for you. Envision the worst-case scenario. What's the worst that could happen if you say no? Often we'll find that our fears are more daunting in our minds than in reality. And even if the worst happens, remember Marcus Aurelius's wisdom, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. And when you do say no, say it with conviction, but also with kindness. Remember, Stoicism isn't about being unfeeling or cold. It's about acting with reason and virtue. You can assert your boundaries while still expressing care and respect for the other person's needs. Lastly, reflect on your experiences. After you've set a boundary, take a moment to consider how it felt. Were you anxious, relieved, empowered? Reflection is a core Stoic practice, allowing us to learn from every action and every outcome, to grow more resilient and more aligned with our inner citadel. Setting boundaries is an act of courage. It's about loving your fate by taking control of what you can and letting go of what you can't. It's about embracing the freedom to live according to your values, to protect your time, your energy, and your well-being. And remember, every no to something that doesn't serve you is a yes to something that does. So, what will you say yes to today? By weaving Stoic principles into the practice of setting boundaries, we transform what might seem like a series of difficult, uncomfortable decisions into a profound exercise in self-respect, empowerment, and ultimately freedom. It's not just about drawing lines. It's about defining the contours of the life you wish to lead, guided by wisdom that has stood the test of centuries. Okay, now we're getting to the heart of our journey together. and I genuinely want to bring you into this conversation. This isn't just me talking at you. It's us exploring these ideas together, side by side, like two friends delving into the depths of what it means to live a good life, guided by the stars of Stoicism. So here's a thought I want to share, inspired by the Stoics, and then I really want to hear from you. Seneca, another heavyweight of Stoicism, once said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How many times have we held back from setting a boundary or saying no because we imagined the worst possible outcomes? Too many, right? But here's the thing. When we actually step up and assert ourselves, the fallout is often far less severe than we feared. Sometimes the response is even positive. It turns out that people respect us more when we respect ourselves. Who knew? Now, I want to turn the floor over to you. I want you to think about a time when you anticipated the worst after setting a boundary or saying no, but the outcome was surprisingly okay, or even better than okay. Share your story in the comments. Let's debunk the myth that setting boundaries always leads to disaster. Let's remind each other that more often than not, it leads to respect, understanding, and healthier relationships. And here's another angle, deeply rooted in Stoicism, that I'm curious to get your take on. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the idea that external events are neutral. It's our perceptions that give them positive or negative value. With that in mind, have you ever experienced a shift in your relationships after asserting a boundary, where what you initially perceived as negative turned out to be positive? Maybe it led to a deeper understanding, or it freed you from commitments that were draining your energy, allowing you to focus on what truly matters. How did asserting a boundary change your perception of a situation? Did it empower you? Did it improve a relationship? Or if you're struggling with setting boundaries, share that too. What's holding you back? Let's support each other in embracing the wisdom of the Stoics, applying it to our lives in practical, meaningful ways. Remember, this channel isn't just about sharing insights. It's about creating a community where we can grow together, inspired by the timeless wisdom of Stoicism. So, don't be shy. Drop your thoughts, your questions, and your reflections in the comments. Let's make this a space where we can all learn from each other, where every comment is a step on our collective journey towards living with intention and virtue. Diving into the world of setting boundaries with a Stoic twist doesn't just mean listing off steps. It's about embracing a philosophy, a way of living that respects both our own limits and the value of our time and energy. Imagine sitting down with a friend over coffee, sharing insights on how Stoicism, this ancient yet ever-relevant wisdom, can actually guide us in asserting ourselves and our needs in today's fast-paced world. Think of Stoicism as your mental gym. Just as you'd exercise your muscles, you're training your mind to distinguish between what's within your control and what's outside it. It's about recognizing that while we can't control others' demands or expectations, we have complete autonomy over how we choose to respond. This realization is liberating. Now picture this. You're faced with yet another request for your time, your energy, or your resources. Instead of an automatic yes that might lead to resentment or burnout, you pause. In that pause lies your power. You reflect on the Stoic teachings of Marcus Aurelius, who advised us to act in alignment with our nature, with our true selves. Is this request in harmony with your values? Does it serve your well-being? If not, it's time to harness the Stoic art of saying no. But here's where it gets beautifully complex. Saying no isn't just about rejecting something unwanted. It's a profound affirmation of your priorities and your well-being. It's a declaration that you value your inner peace above pleasing others. This doesn't mean becoming indifferent or cold to the needs of others. On the contrary, it means engaging with the world and with others from a place of strength and authenticity. Envision yourself a few months from now, having practiced this Stoic approach to boundary setting. You're more centered, more at peace, and, importantly, more present in your relationships. You've learned that true freedom comes not from external validation, but from living in accordance with your values. Your interactions are more meaningful because when you say yes, it's wholehearted and genuine. This journey of setting boundaries, inspired by Stoic wisdom, is not about isolating ourselves, but about refining our interactions with the world to be more intentional and fulfilling. It's about moving through life not as a leaf blown by the winds of others' demands, but as a steadfast tree, deeply rooted in the knowledge of what matters most. So, as we navigate the complexities of life, let's lean on the timeless insights of Stoicism to guide us. Let's remember that every day offers a new opportunity to practice living true to ourselves, one boundary at a time. And in doing so, we not only honor our own needs and values, but we also enrich our relationships with others, offering the best of ourselves by ensuring we're not spread too thin. As we draw our conversation to a close today, I can't help but feel a sense of gratitude for this space where we can share, explore, and dive deep into the wisdom that Stoicism offers us, especially when it comes to the art of setting boundaries. It's a reminder that the teachings of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, Epictetus, and others aren't just ancient texts gathering dust on a shelf. They're living, breathing guides that can help us navigate the complexities of our lives today. Reflecting on our discussion, it strikes me how Stoicism isn't just about enduring hardship or suppressing emotions. It's about finding joy in the journey, about recognizing that our power lies not in controlling the external world, but in mastering our internal one. It's about understanding that saying no to others can sometimes be the most profound way of saying yes to ourselves. This idea of setting boundaries then becomes less about building walls and more about drawing circles around what truly matters to us. It's about defining our space where we can grow, thrive, and contribute to the world in the most meaningful ways. And isn't that a beautiful way to look at it? Not as limitation, but as liberation. I want to leave you with a thought, a little nugget of Stoic gold, if you will. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." So, as we part ways today, I encourage you to reflect on the thoughts that guide your actions. Are they serving you? Are they aligned with the values you hold dear? This reflection is the first step in setting boundaries that aren't just protective, but are also profoundly empowering. Remember, the journey we're on isn't about becoming someone new. It's about returning to who we've always been at our core, before the world told us who we should be. It's a journey back to self, guided by the timeless wisdom of the Stoics. And what a journey it is, fraught with challenges, yes, but also filled with growth, learning, and a deepening sense of peace and fulfillment. Before you click away, if this conversation has sparked a flame within you, I invite you to dive deeper into the world of Stoicism and its application in our daily lives. There's a playlist on the screen now, a collection of discussions, reflections, and guides designed to accompany you on this path of discovery. Click on it, and let's continue this journey together, exploring how ancient wisdom can illuminate our modern lives. Thank you for sharing this moment with me. Until we meet again, may your days be filled with purpose, peace, and the courage to set boundaries that honor your true self.